Paul, let's call them Emma and Daniel, been together for years, literally since they were teenagers. And when they turned 30, they got married, and very, very quickly after turning 30 and getting married, they got pregnant. They were a really, really normal average couple. Like, I can't stress this enough. Emma was a part-time teacher, Daniel worked in a factory. Daniel's shifts were really long hours and quite random. His shift patterns would change every couple of months, and he would often work like 10 to 12 hour shifts. Sometimes he'd start work at like 2 a.m, sometimes he'd get home from work at 2 a.m, and vice versa. And when they found out Emma was pregnant, Daniel decided to take on more shifts and overtime so they can save up for a bigger car and for baby stuff. Because of Daniel's shift patterns, Emma was really used to being on her own a lot, and she started to feel quite lonely now she was pregnant. Daniel had been working shifts for a really big part of their relationship. Emma was used to going to bed on her own, keeping herself occupied, but she started to feel a bit paranoid now she was pregnant. She started to notice that the back door was unlocked almost every morning when she woke up, and she couldn't understand why, and she started to obsess over this door being unlocked. She was also convinced that she would hear people unlock the doors and walk around her house when she was in bed, to the point where she was so scared that she didn't even want to get out of bed. But she just talked it into herself like it's her baby brain. She's doing this to herself. She was also convinced that people were tapping on her window and like doors, but so quietly and so softly that she didn't even know if she could hear it at all. She became hyperfixated on this paranoia, and she expressed her concerns to friends, family, Daniel, and they're like, it's probably pregnancy. Pregnancy does this to you. You get really paranoid and you hear things that aren't there. So she puts it down to baby brain. Honestly, the way these people just ignore things, like, I'd be calling the police straight away. But like I said, Daniel comes home at like random times in the night, gets up at random times in the night, and she knew when Daniel came home because he would always wake her up when he'd have a shower. Daniel worked with like lots of metals, and he'd come home smelling of metal, and Emma didn't like that. So every time he got home, he had a shower before he got into bed, and he was always so quiet, trying to be quiet, and he would never wake her up when he got into bed. However, on this one occasion, she remembers him having a shower. The shower is a bit loud, a bit clambery. I think she remembers that bottles fell off or something. But also what made her stay awake was that when Daniel got into bed, he did something that was unusual, and he turned over and he hugged her, and he hugged her for a long while. She felt really comforted by this. She thought he did this because he knew how much she was missing him at that time and how she felt. She said they have a really creaky bed, and she remembers waking up when he got out of bed, and she just thought he was going to the toilet or whatever. But then she gets woken up again a little while later because she hears the shower running again, and then Daniel getting back in bed, and she was like, that's weird, he's having 2 showers tonight. But she didn't think anything of it. Life went on for a couple of days, weeks. On another occasion where Daniel was working nights, he came home in the middle of the night, and this time she wasn't having a good night's sleep anyway because her back really started hurting, and when he got into bed she was already awake. She said that she always faced the wall and Daniel always faced his wall. She said that she didn't turn over, and she just said, babe, can you please rub my back? And he did. And she said it was the best massage ever. It really helped. And she went to turn over to give him a hug and a kiss, and he just said shh and kept her from turning over. She just thought he was tired. She went back to bed. Now the following weekend they're at Daniel's family's house, and Emma's still getting this really bad back pain, and she's kind of like leaning over the kitchen counter, she says, and she just says like, babe, can you rub my back? And he's like, no, not here. She's like, please just rub my back. And he eventually gives in, and she says that he's acting a bit embarrassed, and he's doing it like really lightly, and she's just like, oh, do it like how you did it the other day. And he's like, what do you mean how I did it the other day? And she's like, honestly, the other day you gave me a really good massage in bed, and I need it again because I'm carrying your baby, please massage me. Honestly, the least he could do. They get into a bit of a tiff in front of the family, and Daniel's just like, your baby brain is literally like driving me mad because you're imagining things. You're thinking that I'm coming home and giving you a massage and that somebody's unlocking